Welcome to Master Agent Mindset, where today we have a fabulous guest. His name is Pat Martino, a friend that I've known for 10 years. We're here to get his wise and encouraging thoughts, advice to you all rookies out there and those who just kind of need it. So here we go.
Good afternoon, young man.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Today's a good day.
Today's a good day. Any day above ground
It's a great day.
It's a good day. So talk to me. How's it going? What's going on?
Business.
How's business?
Business is, it's always fluctuates day to day. It all depends on what you need, what you put in it, and what your return is going to be.
You've been in this business a long time, huh, Pat?
Mm-hmm.
How long you been in this business now?
I think I started in 1996.
Didn't you do Moses' first deal? Was that you?
I think I was representing him on when the Red Sea parted.
Ah, that was all new territory,
It's
right
all
there.
new territory.
So 1996, my Lanta, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was I moved here from California,
Okay.
and I wanted to get into a trade. I was in the construction industry there.
Okay.
I wanted to get into a trade that was something I felt comfortable in, and housing was always comfortable. So I just went and took the test and passed, and actually I'm with the same company.
Really?
Yeah.
So you
Different
started,
name, but
what
same
was it
company.
called?
It's called Americana. What is it?
Better Homes and Gardens?
Better Homes and Gardens.
There
Americana.
you go. And you've been from that moment to now. That's a long time.
A lot of different names, same owners.
Yeah.
But, it's been a wild ride. And I remember going there the very first time I went and interviewed. And I went to work, and Mark Stark was there. And I remember some of the words he told me.
Legendary, I bet. That guy's a stud.
He says, what you're going to learn here, if you carry this on through your career, you're going to be successful.
No matter what.
No matter what.
That guy has made more millionaires than probably a lot of men here in Vegas, following his advice, I would say.
Yeah, and I think more than millionaires. Yes, we're in it for the money, but not really. We're in it for the relationships. I think being in it just for the money is so short-sighted. If you're in it for the relationships, you got longevity.
Oh, I agree.
You end up staying because the people we represent that love us and we help them get to where they want to go, they keep coming back.
Yeah. So you got a lot of raving fans, huh, Pat?
Well, I use a Brian Buffini technique. I actually grade my clients.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I do. There's A pluses, A's, B's, C's, and D's. And the D's, I never want to see again, ever.
I hope you don't got a lot of those.
Well, I don't have a lot, but we always seem to run into them during the course of business.
Yeah.
There's some people that you can, enough is just never enough. There's an old joke about that.
Oh, let's hear it.
Enough is never enough. Grandmother sitting on the beach with her grandson. And all of a sudden, a gigantic wave comes, engulfs the grandson, and drags him right back into the ocean. And the grandmother, just drops to her knees, looks up at the sky, and says, God, please bring my grandson back. He's so innocent. He's never done anything. Just please bring him back to me. So all of a sudden, another wave comes, drops the grandson right there, and the wave returns into the ocean. And the grandmother looks at the grandson and then looks up in the sky and says, he did have a hat. Enough is just never enough for some people.
That's a great one. That is a great. So, bless us with some of your words of wisdom. I know you've got you got a lot. So let's hear some of that wisdom coming out.
I tell you, I have some basic philosophies
Oh, okay.
that I really love to live by.
Okay.
And one of them is database, database, database. You talk to people, they have to go in your database. I am only as good as the database I maintain.
Really?
That's it.
So how long have you had a database going?
Actually, I have a top producer database. That's to tell you.
I think you turned me on to a top database 10 years ago. I think it was you that told me about it. Yeah.
I think I've had it probably 25 years.
Wow.
And but I talk to clients, and then I can write in there what we talk about. You know, well, my dog Spot passed away, and I feel bad about that, but I'll write it in there. And as I continue to really call them back, or I'll just say, so have you replaced your dog yet? And it goes back to something that Mark said. He said, you know, your clients are never going to care about you until they know you care about them. And you can remember things like that and share that with them. Mm-hmm. And once you have that rapport built up, that's a pretty sacred thing. You got to really keep that rapport. So database, I believe in that. What else? Sales. I work on the 80-20 rule.
Okay.
Pat's 80-20 rule.
Pat's 80-20 rule. All right, let's hear this.
Whatever I generate, when I track my deals, and I only track closed deals, 80% of where I get my deals from, that's where I invest all my advertising money in. Wherever I get 80 to 85% of my deals.
Okay.
So
how would that work out? So you're talking with your database is where you will send them promotional information, or
sometimes,
or what they actually closed, and where they closed is where you would spend your money.
Right. And then also for me, I do a lot of mail outs in separate markets. And that's another thing that I learned. I need to have a niche market. Some people do age restricted. Some people specialize in open houses. I specialize in farms, and I will send the neighborhood updates.
Okay.
And I've been sending neighborhood updates probably a lot of years.
So when you send these neighborhood updates, you send them, what's your intervals?
I send them once a month.
Okay. So every month you've had a couple communities that, how many communities?
I do two.
Okay, 2 communities for over 20 years.
Well, one for about 20. I'd say the other probably 8.
Okay, and do you see a return on investment? What would like these rooks that are out there just kind of figure out where they put their marketing dollars?
Great point. Great point.
Is there, what would you say?
Well, you know, there is no quick response. There's no magic bullet. I'm going to send this out for 2 or 3 months, and if I don't get any response, I'm off to another idea. You have to be in for the long haul. So there's times I'll send it out, and I won't get a hit for 3, 4, 5 months.
Oh, really?
That's right. And then all of a sudden, the 6th or the 7th, I'll get 3 or 4 deals.
Nice.
So there's no rhyme or reason, but the thing that is the consistency. I have to be consistent and ride through the lean times till I get into the good times. Boy, I made a lot of mistakes here. Doing this business.
Have you?
A lot of mistakes. And I'll tell you one good thing I've learned.
What have you learned?
I've learned that every check I get, I put 25% in a separate account. As soon as I get that check, goes right, and I have direct deposit. As soon as it comes into my bank account, 25% goes right to another bank account. I don't even see it. Don't even touch it. And if you're new in the business, that's something that's really, really important to do. Learn that now. Save your money.
There's a name for that. Hold on. Let me think right now. That's called pay yourself first. I've heard that from Mike Ferry, and I've heard that from Buffini.
Mm.
And what they say is, if you take the first part of that money and you put it away somewhere where you're not going to touch it, let's say a savings account,
Mm-hmm.
then what you'll have is a built-in insurance policy against the tides that may come, the problems that may happen over the course of your career. Is that exactly what you've been saying? Dovetails, exactly. Is that what you were saying?
Lean times. If there's one thing that's consistent in this business, it's inconsistent.
Mm.
Sometimes we're on the top of the wave, and then all of a sudden we're at the bottom. But what always happens is there's always ebbs and tides. There's always ups and downs. We need to save that money to have us go through the lean times.
Sure.
One thing I've learned that I did not do is I should have enjoyed more of the lean times. When they did happen, I should have gone out, traveled, done a few of those things. But, as an independent contractor, as you know, people think, oh, my God, an independent contractor, you don't have to answer to anybody.
How nice.
How nice. But in reality, we end up putting more hours than a regular 40-hour job.
Yeah, I think we work harder than most on that note.
Yeah. But it's all good. I like it. I was talking to you about the past.
Yeah.
A lot of mistakes in the past. I was, and Aldo, my manager here, what a great guy. Years ago, he told me, him and I have been together probably 15 years.
Oh, yeah. You guys
time.
have known it a long while now. 15 years.
He told me, he said, Pat, you need to get into age-restricted communities.
Oh, okay.
And for some reason, I just didn't listen.
Why not? Why do you think you did?
I don't know. I got involved in manufactured homes. Not a big fancy issue, not big dollars, but consistent.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd sell 8 or 10 every year, and then that would be enough to cover my nut. And then everything else I sold was gravy.
Yeah.
But I ended up getting into that business, and got a good story on that one too.
Okay, what you got?
Got a lot of stories. I do. I was representing a seller, and we got an offer from another agent, brought his buyer, and the buyer loved the place. Ended up selling it. And I would drive the neighborhood periodically because I always had 3-4 of my for sale signs up there, and I knew people in that subdivision. And I drove by this gentleman's home, and I stopped. I saw him out there, and I said, hey, how you doing? And he says, you realtors, you're all bums. Great start to a conversation, right? So I says, what's the problem? He says, I picked out a home warranty. No, you picked out a home warranty, me, Pat, which I did not do, but I let him talk. And he said, I came to get a new faucet, and they wouldn't pay for the new faucet for me, and it cost me $150.
Wow.
I said, wow. I said, you know what? Reached in my pocket, and I says, here's $75. I says, you get the other 75 from the realtor who represented you. And by the way, I didn't pick out this home warranty, your guy did. So I drove away, and about 2 years later, I stayed in touch with him. I mailed to that subdivision. He called me up, and he said, Pat, I found a house I want to buy. Would you represent me? I said, sure. So I said, what are you going to do with the other one? He says, well, once I buy this new one, you're going to sell the other one. I said, fine. So I represented him on the purchase of a home. I listed his property for sale. And since I did so much work in that subdivision, I actually generated the buyer.
Wow.
So 3 deals for, now was it $75 or was it for doing the right thing?
Right. It was for doing the right thing.
So, that's one other thing I try to live by, too. You got to do the right thing even when it hurts.
Mm. You know, a lot of agents would not have put their hand in their pocket and helped that guy out because he didn't understand. For you to do that, it speaks volumes about you. It really does. And it's proven by the relationship you maintain with that same guy over the course of a couple of years. A lot of agents I've seen in the business that come in and they're looking for the
Quick.
They're looking for the alley-oop. They're looking for something they can do real quick. They can be the star of the show and then move on to greener pastures. But I think people like us who last in the business are the ones that have come to realize that it is a people business and the people matter. And if you can come up with a couple hundred that you've serviced over a course, what ends up happening is those people will remember you as long as you keep in touch. And if it's a system as complicated as some of these advanced CRMs that are in existence today, or if it's a very easy spreadsheet where you've got your people's names, something you could write notes on, whatever you decide to use. I will tell you, Pat, I used to do everything in writing. Literally had a notebook and I had people's names until when I met you and you told me to go on to
Top
producer. I joined top producer. I got out of top producer and I went on to this other one,
Sure.
which I pay like an arm and a leg for. So that's the verdict still out if I'm going to stick to that. But for now, that's where I am. I'm not going to say where because they're not a sponsor of the show.
But you know what, Pedro? It doesn't really matter which program you use. As long as you have a database program that you use every day. And
Right.
It's amazing. This is not rocket science. You come into work in the morning, turn on your computer, go to your website, go to my top producer, and it says, Pat, you've got 15 calls to make today. I mean, it actually tells me what to do. And I'll go do my 15 calls, and if I want to do more, I can do more. If I don't, that's fine. I have the rest of the day to do whatever I want. Now, as I get older, some days I'll take a little extra time off. But point being, I'll come in the next morning. Boy, that's another thing, too. We're independent contractors, but we hit on this earlier. We got to go to work every day.
Every day.
You got to go in the office. Now, some people are blessed to be able to work from their home. And God bless them. They have their own office there. I don't have that ability. I can't do it. I need to get up, get dressed, come to the office, have a cup of coffee, turn the computer on, and start work.
Yeah. My problem is honeydews. I love my wife, but man, every time I'm at home, it's either my wife or my kids and daddy or honey, and will you please, can you set up the Wi-Fi? And it drives me absolutely bananas. If I'm not there, then they know to leave me alone and I can actually get work done. So, those people out there that are doing it from their home office, good for you. Can't do it. I'm with you, man. Come into work every day.
And if you can do it, you have to remember the imaginary red line.
Oh, boy. What's that?
Well, if you're doing it from an office and you have the door closed and you're at work and you're 100% at work, that's fine. But when you open that door up and then that imaginary red line is right underneath that door, when you walk out there, you leave work in the office and you start being a family man. You got a wife, you got kids, and right then and there you have to do what's right. You got to have a family. You got to deal with them. Not deal with them, I didn't mean it that way. You have to make them part of your life.
I agree. And having 5 kids, I couldn't agree with you more.
Well,
I had a similar story, Pat. I went to a Mike Ferry event, and
Good guy.
yeah, he's a hero of mine. I'm not even play. The guy, he helped me in one of the darkest times. And I've never really even had a conversation with the guy, but I've gone to his events. And in one particular event that I was sitting there in this arena full of 2,000 people. It was lots and lots of people, however, 5,000, whatever it was. It seemed to me so many, but yet I felt alone. I don't know if you've been there.
Oh, wow.
So I'm sitting there, and I'm listening to everything he has to say. And in the discourse, he made a flippant comment. And because I was taking notes and making myself promises, right, he had told the crowd, the next time you see a for sale by owner sign, stop the car, knock on the door, and ask if you can help them sell the house. And that thought, as I hate to admit it, I'd been in the business for a long time before that, never occurred to me. You know, as silly as that sounds, it just did not. So I said, okay, I'll do that. I got no problems with that. Except when you're in a hurry, right? So I'm driving through a neighborhood and reaching a destination that was critical that I had to be there at the time. And I see the open house sign. But I had made a promise. And since I always like to be a little bit early instead a little bit late, so I said I got a little bit of time. So I pulled over and I knocked on the door with the expectation they weren't going to be there or they wouldn't open the door and I'd just leave my car and I could run back to the car and go, and I fulfilled my promise, right?
You're talking for sale by owner sign.
Yep, for sale by owner. So when I knocked on the door, the lady shows up and she goes, yes. And I said, I'm a real estate agent. Here's my card. Want to help you sell the house. And I expected a real quick brush off. And she says, my husband's not home. I'm like, yes. And he'll be back in about half hour. Can you come back? Because we are interested in talking to you. We had just had a conversation this last week, and we were going to reach out to a real estate agent. And I said, well, great. And so she saw the look in my eye, like, okay, deer in the headlights. So I got back in the car, went to the appointment. Guy called me. I went back. He toured the house for me. And next day I had a listing, right? Well, this story doesn't end there. He had also said, as soon as you get a listing, guys, you have to call around the area because we're not secret agents. We got to let people know what you're doing. So I said, okay. So I'm going to call the area. So I did that. That was easier, by the way. So I set it up with Cole, uploaded it to my Mojo, and called all of those people that I could get on the phone. Mm-hmm. A gentleman answered, and he was so nice. And he says, I would really like you to come over because, yes, I'm thinking about selling my home. I said, wow, it doesn't get any easier than this, right? So I showed up at the appointment, an older fella, nice guy, but one of those hermit guys where you could tell he never went and left the house much. And it was a gorgeous house. He had money, a stockbroker, the whole bit. And anyway, he made room on the table with all these Life magazines, Newsweeks, everything. I don't think he ever threw away one periodical. And so we sat down together and we started talking. And after it was over, I thought he was going to sign the listing. It was a done deal. And he says, well, I don't think you understand me. I'm not selling right now. So now I'm thinking, oh gosh, I just wasted an hour of my life with this guy, the prep work and all that. But all right, I'm like, no problem. So what do you want to do, sir? And he says, you're going to help me find my next house, and then I'll list with you. So I go, sure. So I go, what are you looking for? All right. He ended up buying $1 million house, make a long story short, and I sold his house. So I got the listing for sale by owner, and I got the sale of his house, and I got the purchase of his new house. But watch this. The house that I tried to help sell, the for sale by owner, expired. It didn't close, right? it wasn't because it wasn't a nice house, but it was in an area of town. Is you either love that area or you don't love the area, and it's a really big plot of land. It's over an acre. Anyway, the point is, it's one of those hit and miss. And because in that time, that price point, today I could sell it in a minute at that price point. Back then, no. And I did everything I could have to sell it, so I didn't sell it. But the moral of the story is, I kept the word that I made to myself, and the repercussions of that were amazing. I picked up just under a couple $1 million in production, right? Mm-hmm. Because I listened to myself, and you could do the math. I made some good money on it, and it wasn't an idea that I had. It was because I humbled myself and listened to Mike Ferry, and took the advice of a pro in this business.
What a great point.
Right?
What a great point.
To make it happen.
You made something incredible happen, and the way you did it was you took the advice of someone else.
That's right.
Even when it hurt. Sometimes that's hard to do. And look at that. You were at a place when you went to that Mike Ferry seminar, and you were in a dark place. You said, maybe you were thinking about the past, or, sometimes I could dig into the past, and I keep thinking, especially when I don't have any action. And I do. I enjoy listings and sales. I like to keep them balls up in the air and not let one of them fall. But when that does not happen, I start digging into myself, and I'm going, what am I doing wrong? And I was sharing something with you earlier. It's about the past. And Roy T. Bennett said this about the past. The past is a place of reference, not a place of residence. The past is a place of learning, not a place of living. And I have to remember that. I got to remember I can learn from the dumb mistakes I do, and learn from them and not do them again, or learn and handle them a different way, or learn from someone else that's giving me an opportunity, that they're sharing some knowledge with me, and then I can actually use the knowledge. You're a perfect example of that. You use the knowledge presented to you. Look what happened.
Yeah, it was good. In the moral of that story, what's lost is exactly, I was in a dark place. And what I see when economically you've lost things, assets, everything's in the rears, everything seems bad, your wife's crawling up you because of this or because of that. It creates what I call a paralysis of action. And so what happens is you just want to crawl up in a corner and do nothing, or do the familiar, or get into some form of escape to try to forget about the reality that you're in. And since I've always been a cup full, not a cup half empty guy, I was always hopeful that there would be a way out. I did not know the way at the time, but I knew that if I kept hopeful, that it would present itself in a way.
So true.
Right? So in that moment, I was paralyzed in action because I couldn't see the truth right in front of me. And in that same conference, he had also said, in a terribly abbreviated, paraphrased way, because he speaks so eloquently, he basically said, if you have people you've done business with in the past, and you don't reach out to them, and you don't keep relationships with them, then basically you're starting every day as a new agent, right? And he does teach that every day you should go to zero, but he doesn't mean that you shouldn't cultivate the relationships that you've already had. And basically what he challenged the crowd was, when was the last time you guys called your past clients of 3 years ago, right? And I was thinking about that. I'm like, you know what? I was a very successful loan officer before that dark time.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I haven't ever reached out for the whole of my career. And I started in 94 as a loan officer. And I got to the pinnacle of what a loan officer is, making really, really big money. And when I lost it all because of the crash and I was kind of like lost, not knowing where to go, I didn't realize that I had a pot of gold that was literally on my phone.
In your database.
In my own little weird way, database on my phone. And I did not reach out until I was literally told to do it. How stupid is that?
You know, I can so relate though, because we get so tunnel visioned that we forget to see the wide open spaces. And that's why for me, I need to be around individuals that are smarter than me, that I can sit and talk to. And for your listeners, if you have a manager or someone that's really doing well in the business, if you're blessed enough where they'll give you a few minutes of their time every morning, I end up sitting with my manager. And I'll go in, if I'll see him, and if he's not busy, he'll give me a few minutes, and we'll talk about family, and then sometimes I'll talk about a deal. And then I'll say, I have this thing coming up, and I just don't know how to do it. And he'll say, well, why don't you try this? And all of a sudden, he'll pop in something that I didn't even think of, that I knew about, but I didn't relate to it. And there's my answer. And that happens more than not if I allow myself to be in the present.
And being present in the present is important, wouldn't you think? Wouldn't you agree?
Sure, definitely.
So here I was feeling bad about losing lots of money, lots of assets and all that. It was a terrible time. I worked every day trying to find what to do because I have a really good work ethic. But I wasn't doing the things that I needed to do, nor did I reach out or try to learn how to do new ways or new things.
Sure.
And I was left behind. So at the same time, I'm having a pity party, right, about all these things that are happening to me. Some agents are making fortunes by working with banks. That thought never occurred to me. I'm a loan officer, right, and a real estate agent, and the thought never occurred to me to call banks to represent them on foreclosed deals. It was as elementary as it gets, and I look back and I laugh at myself. I'm like, hello, I had the credentials. Why didn't I do that? But I didn't do that. And look, today, Pat, we're facing a very, very volatile time, in my opinion, okay? And it's a beautiful thing to have the experience and doctorate degree in falling on my face, right? Because now that I'm watching the rates go up, I'm watching sellers hesitant to sell because they have a low rate and they can't do a lateral move because they're not giving up $1,100 payment for a $2,300 payment.
Can't take that rate with them, can they?
Right. So they're stuck. And so they're saying to themselves, okay, well, we're going to just hang tough, Martha.
What a great point. What a great point. And I think our job as realtors is to really educate individuals and say, you can't get that rate again. You may want to think about renting this house out, and let's get you another one. And even though you're paying a higher interest rate now, you're in the game again. Because here's what happens. Interest rates go down, prices of homes go up. So when the interest rates are a little on the high side, we're picking up homes at a more reasonable rate. And nowadays it doesn't seem reasonable, but we still are. And then when interest rates go down, we can always refinance.
And I agree. There is a point that I want to bring up. And I remember when my dad first came to this country, we're immigrants, right? And my dad got a job as a butcher.
As a butcher.
Right. Back in 1970, I think, right? He retired as a butcher, by the way. I mean, worked his whole life as a butcher. He told me, he says, look, either, I got to feed you guys, and I know I can with this job, no matter what. Right? So it's kind of the same logic I did with housing. I'm like, well, they got to live somewhere, right? But an important point to think about is in the 70s, the average salary, what people would make is ridiculous as compared to today. But they could buy a whole lot more.
Dollar was worth more, houses were cheaper. Less expensive.
Yes, less expensive. But one income as a butcher could afford the wife to stay home, buy a house, buy a car, maybe two, right? Take the family on family vacations. All that on a butcher's salary. Today, not so much. If you compare what you could buy back in the day for a house in California, which I've talked to many, they've sold houses and bought here in Las Vegas. They would tell me, I bought my house for $50,000, $80,000, $200,000. They'd sell their house for a lot more, $800,000, $1 million, or whatever the number was. And so if you look and project what's going on now and see what's happening with rates, all that you got to remember is that back in the 70s, the rates were astronomical.
Correct.
Right? So for you to be able to buy a house, you're at 12, 13%, right? And this went on all the way with some lows for years, right? I got in the business in 1995 as a loan officer, and I was in a refi boom. Why? Because the rates went from, get this, 10.5, 11, or 12 to 9.5 or 9.
9.5. Wow.
So when people complain to me, I remember the rates.
Oh, so funny.
Yeah, when the rates were 3%, I actually had people upset because they heard the rates were 2.5. And I would try to tell them, well, look, a 3% rate you won't see again. This is amazing. Well, no, because of the payment. Well, now what you have is the pendulum going down. The higher the rate, the lower the property value. And so if you look at what you could buy back in the 70s and what you can buy today, they're relatively the same in terms of buying power with the amount of money that the household income is coming in with. So the only thing that really happened was you just had to bring in another person that works, which sucks, but that's the truth, to do the same thing.
Right. It's a two-income world right now. There's a lot of things going on in our world right now. Investment property, I started late in my investment property career, but it's a good way to go. Good way to save some money, buying it at the right time. And for the individuals that, let me ask you this. How many times do you hear, well, I'm not going to sell this house till I'm able to buy a new one, and I'm waiting for the interest rates to come down around 4 or 3 again.
All the time.
And I'm telling them, those days are not going to come. Unless, God forbid, there's a war or something like that.
Which is brewing.
Well, we're so blessed to be where we're at. We've worked hard, and I know you have. You've done fantastic. And I tell you what, I'm happy with where I'm at. I don't have to sell 50 deals a year anymore. I'm happy with the 15, 20. That's fine by me. I like it because I get out of the house. My Sandra's retired now, so she
Nice.
says, Pat, and I say, yeah, honey, I'm on my way to the office. She knows. She laughs at me, and she's glad I go.
Yeah. Well, in our world, is there really retirement? I mean, if you do
What a great point.
yeah, if we do our routine, which is call our past clients, take care of our messages, return our phone calls. That's basically after you've been an agent for over 10 years. That's all you got to do. People want the information on a timely manner, and as long as you're calling back your clients or servicing their SOIs, you're fine, right?
You're so right, so right. And that's it. We need to take care of our clients. We need to return phone calls. And you know what that's called? We need to go to work.
That's right.
And it's not rocket science. Just keep doing the right thing. Come to work every day. Put their wishes above my own. And I've learned that if I could do that, I will make more money. Because it's not about me, it's really about them. And if I can make them happy, get them to where they want to go, they'll tell their friends, their family, and they just keep coming back.
They do. And the reason I think people come back to someone that is on point, that is always returning their calls and always remembering them, is because we become part of their life story.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like that.
Think about that. So you and I, we don't practice being a superhero with the clients. In other words, having problems brew and we come in with a cape. What we try to do is see the problems, disclose what they are, give them a solution. If there is one, let them make the decision. And then if they're happy, we move forward. But our goal, ideally, is that there is no problems during the transaction that we are not aware of and that we're not going to handle. And then what happens is when they get their keys or they move on to the next stage of their life, what ends up happening is we're woven into that experience, which should be a very happy, uneventful transaction. And then when they have their friends and family and work co-workers or whatever bring up the subject, then they say, well, because they have the house to remember them and because we call them or send them information, call my boy Pat. He'll answer right away or within a few minutes. He'll give you, no pushy guy. I think you'll like him. Give him a call. You're woven in to that experience that they had. Obviously, if you're playing superhero and you're making everything out from a molehill to a mountain and everything's a problem because you want to impress your clients that way. And some people actually think that that's good service. And then what happens is it was such a bad experience, they want to edge that person out of their history.
Chaos.
Exactly.
They
work
don't
on
want the
chaos.
So true. We're not supposed to be superheroes. What a great analogy. What a great analogy. We're just supposed to be who we are, someone we can establish a rapport with, individuals. And you got an issue, I tell you, one of my favorite lines is, I know I don't know everything. I know, and that's okay. But you know what? I know who to talk to get the answer to your question. And I don't have a problem telling them, I don't know. Let me get back to you. I'd rather do that and come back with the correct information. Because I tell you, sometimes I can shoot from the hip real well.
Yeah.
I just got to control myself and not do it.
Right.
This isn't rocket science. And you're so right. And the thing is, we just have to do the right thing. We have to put our clients' needs ahead of our own. And that's so hard for some individuals to do. I talk to agents on the phone all the time. One of the things that are happening now in our industry is I have a buyer and I'm trying to make appointments to go see properties. And I like to call the other agent and find out, is there an offer on the property? No. If my clients like it, what is it that would make my client's offer stand out? Just that one-on-one conversation. I love to do that. And now it seems hard to be able to talk to other agents. It's more, don't call me, text me, send me an email. And I know I have to adapt. I am older, but I do like the one-on-one. I find that if I can talk to them, I can find things that might aid my client. And that's what it's all about. Get my client to where they want to be.
I agree with that philosophy. We have to be the hunter, the gatherer, the guy, the gal that goes out there and makes business happen, especially when it comes to listings. I think the reason we haven't been taken over, again, and I've said this in the past, by these big Wall Street conglomerates is simply because they can't figure out how to crack the code to represent people that want to sell their homes or get listings. And that's because it's such a people integrated thing. It's a service that is so touchy. It's so one-on-one. It's incredible that a commodity like a house does require a special touch from us agents to get it done. And they are doing a decent job with buyers and trying to focus those buyers and those buyer leads to certain agents that are willing to pay for it. But they haven't been able to control all of the market, right? Because we get those referrals, those SOIs and all that. So the tools that they provide online for the people to find homes have turned into a tool for us. For example, I get a call when I get buyers and I send them houses and I send them a link. These buyers don't just go on my link. They go to Zillow,
everybody else is up too.
Realtor.com. They're doing their own due diligence and they're not checking up on us, but they're making sure, because they have the time, that their neighborhood that they want to live in are offering up what we're purporting is out there. So when my clients send me a text, I tell them, you like a house? Text it to me. I don't try to argue with them and tell them not to go. Or I used to coach them and I used to say, hey, if you get online to Zillow and you click you like one, you're going to get 1,000 agents calling you, man. You may not want to do that. I stopped doing that because now they instinctively know. Enough people have clicked to try to have the agents call them that the word's gotten out. So if they're working with an agent and they're working with me, then what happens is I tell them, hey, send me the picture.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Then I start at that point giving them the information that they don't have access to. Hey, by the way, I talked to the listing agent and I said, do you have any offers? And he said, I have 20. And I said, do you have any cash? And he says, will not disclose that information at the moment. And I say, what's your highest offer? And he says, can't disclose that information at the moment. And I say, well, on your listing agreement, are you sure you can't tell me? Because my idea is to beat that. So no, I can't. Or yes, I can. My highest offer is this. Great. I will go back to my client. And then I come back with information they cannot get. And then I've become valuable and of service.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So I've turned it on its head.
I agree with you. You know, that's what they pay us for, Pedro. And if there's individuals out there that are not doing that right now, they are missing the boat. Because it's always about service. Your client calls and he wants it. You brought a great point out. You know, not only do I find out if it's still available, how many offers are on it, and then I can bring that information back to my client so they can make a decision from a point of knowledge. Now, what's that come with? I think that comes with agent experience.
You think?
I do. And I think that does. And I think these little tidbits that we're sharing right now will make a mediocre agent a really successful agent. But you got to put them in place. You know what? Because this is all about action. Talk is cheap. You can say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But unless you put the action in place, you're still going to be in the same spot.
I agree with you. I think a lot of guys spin the wheels. All right, they talk, but then they don't do. And I've seen so many agents come and go.
Oh.
And I've talked to several, and I've shared with them, hey, if you do this and if you do that, because they inevitably come to my office, knock on the door, because I'm friendly, right? And then I explain to them
what do I need to do to be like you, Pedro?
Yeah, well, it's that, or it's, hey, how do I get business, because I want to stay in the business, right? So one of the things that I tell them is you need to be stable in a lot of things. Stable where you're working, stable in your household. For you to be able to have a base, you need a base, right? So if you're wanting to have a bunch of people that are your raving fans, well, you need a solid foundation of which to grow. If you're transplanting yourself, always chasing more money because this is 100% shop, or this gal wants me on her team and she promised me all these leads and this and that, and you start being the pinball machine, going here and there and everywhere, then what happens is you're cutting the roots out of your own business. And I've seen, look, I had a guy come up to me in a fair, right? And back in, I think it was 14, I vaguely remember the guy, but he came in like I was his best friend, right? And I'm like, hey, buddy. He's like, hey, man, how you been? And I'm like, hey, I'm good. You know, he goes, hey, man, how's the prospect going? I'm like, yeah, it went good. He goes, you know what, man? Since I left that office, I went to another couple offices. No one was prospecting, and I stopped prospecting. And you know what? I've been out of the business now since then. I'm like, oh, well, what are you doing? And who cares what he was doing, because I don't remember. But the point is, here's a guy that I personally work with, was, you know, helping mentors, supposedly, because I don't remember much. And then the guy left the office because he found a better, whatever it was.
5% more.
Oh, yeah, he made all this money more. And then at the end, what happened? He's out of the business, right? So I say this, wherever you go, there you are.
That's a great point.
If where you are, you're stinking thinking, then you're going to go somewhere and you're going to have stinking thinking. If you're not doing anything to procure either to hunter or to gather philosophies, then you're going to be doing the same if you're at 100% shop. Now listen, I'm not here to dog 100% shop or any shop.
I understand.
Right?
You're right.
But you're being seduced out by your own numbers, and I fall guilty to it. So you're sitting there looking at your numbers, and you're saying, wow, I did this much. Had I kept this much of the brokerage, then I would have been this far ahead, right? And then they don't realize that the broker has paid the rent, the receptionist, the paper, the copier, all of your things, technology that you take for granted, right? And then now if you add that back into what you made, and you have to pay for yourself, or you have to a la carte it like they do at a lot of these places, you're really not making all that much money. You're probably making more, but you're not taking into consideration all of the bennies, the contacts, and the people that are around you.
You know, I'm telling you, I've really enjoyed this little talk, because I find it so refreshing. And I really like the brokerage I'm at. And my manager always will make time to talk with me, so that if I have a problem, he'll help me work through it. And you talk about people leaving. In this particular brokerage, I've probably seen a dozen people leave. Oh, let me rephrase that. I've seen a lot of people leave and not come back, but I've seen about a dozen people that leave, go out there, work for another brokerage, and then all of a sudden within 6 months to a year, they're back and they're saying, I don't know why I ever left. I'm telling you, if you're in an office where you have some really good vibes, where you see people working, where you know that if you have a problem, you can go to somebody and just talk with them to get another answer or another option to deal with a problem or a challenge, you're in the right place. And that little bit of extra money, to me, is nothing. I can only speak for me. But the relationship where I get more work, I get more knowledge, I get more people that got my back, I'd stay here. This is just, I like this company.
Yeah. And wherever you happen to find yourself, if you're moving and moving and moving, you're just cutting your roots. And at the end, if you don't tie in somewhere, whether it's here or anywhere, it doesn't matter, right? What's going to happen is you're going to set yourself up for failure. I don't play that moving around. I've been to 2 real estate companies in my career, and the last one, my broker died. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't think I can beat that one.
Yeah. So I haven't been to a lot of places, and the reason is because even though I do my numbers and I see it, wow, and it's a lot of money, that if I went, if, the problem is the unknown. And here's something that I've noticed. As the years have gone on, and a lot of these agents, they're like myself, they're lifers, right? I send an offer, and they say, oh, it's Pedro, and oh yeah, he's still here. And then they get a bunch of other offers. They know it's Pedro, and they'll call me. Hey, how you doing? Hey, brother, how are you? Good. How you been? I'm good. Hey, I see your offer. I appreciate that. So what's going on? We got a chance? No, not a snowball's chance. But I wanted to let you know that I appreciate you sending the offer. I go, you calling everybody like this? No, but I appreciate the offer. And just so you know, we have this, and it's this. All right, bro, thanks. I don't think my client could do anything with that.
Yeah, but you know what, Pedro? Be honest. There's the other end of that spectrum, too. Pedro, you're almost there. And we as realtors can talk and negotiate, because it is in our contracts, especially the listing contracts, that they can disclose. And as an agent, whether we're representing the buyer or the seller, to work with another agent that we have a past relationship with, to know that, this guy's a straight shooter. We can really do our clients well.
And and that's exactly right. So the other end of that spectrum, and the reason I brought up the first part of it is because a lot of us are in it to keep relationships, including relationships outside of our own brokerages. But
you're talking about with other realtors. Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they'll call and they'll say, hey, dude, thanks, but this is what's going on. I appreciate that, because they know that I called them first. They know that they've known me, and I've always called. And I think a professional agent shouldn't be texting all the time on every deal. There's times for that, and I agree with that, especially if you can't get a hold of the person. But I think the professional is the one that's going to make the call. And here's the thing. A lot of people don't like confrontation. And when you make the call, the possibility for a confrontation is afoot. And so if you call them, you're going to ask them tough questions. And that's why a lot of agents don't answer. So when I call, I do the pleasantries, right, like anybody else. But I dispense quickly with those because I respect their time. And I just go right to the chase. And then while I'm going through my litany of questions, I'm polite. But I can feel the tension building in the other agent. And I try to break that with humor, right?
Oh, I'm big on that
Yep.
too.
And then when they're at the point where they can go any further with information because they would be violating, and if this is
Confidentiality.
and this is ethical, and
Sure.
I try never to push them any further than they want to go. But at the end, what I'll get is I'll get a relationship with other agents, and then all the agents and all the deals that I've closed, and the people that I've already closed with, they'll answer my call because I've already closed the deal and they know I'm the real deal. But hold on. They also know I was always respectful. I'll give you a great example. I have a deal that happened, and I won't give you any names or timelines, but we presented an offer. There was 30 offers.
Wow.
And the agent told me that. And we presented a strong offer, right? And it wasn't cash, it was a loan. But it was over and above everybody else, and I knew that, right? So our offer was accepted. So I was polite to the gal. The seller didn't know to accept our offer or not because we were way above it. But she figured after the conversation that I had with the agent, that I'm guessing she was probably on the other line on, they took our offer. Well, what happened? We went and did the opened escrow, earnest money, and then we did the home inspection. Well, when we showed up, oh my gosh, all kinds of problems, right? So I was like, my client was like, what should I do? And I'm like, listen, either you bail or we're going to have to go in and ask for a whole lot of repairs. What do you want to do? Take a day. So he took a day. His dad was in some kind of contracting, whatever. And it turns out that they all said unanimously no. So I didn't try to talk my client into something that is going to be a headache for them later. But then I had a person on the other side that was wanting to sell their property, and they accepted our offer. So I had to take that in consideration. So I couldn't tell my client, take a week, you still got it. I had to tell my client, take a day. And then as soon as he told me that he's going to do it, I didn't try to talk him out of it. I just sent him the cancellation. He signed it within a couple of minutes. Then I sent it to the agent, and then called the agent and apologized and gave them information to help them sell the house for the next person.
Wow. You know that, you don't know, that speaks volumes about you. A couple things I picked up from that. Number one, take a day. You know, you don't want to buy it. And instead of realtor trying to really push, you could buy this house and it's not as bad, you really were up front and said, hey, if you don't want to buy it, let's find you another house. And you had another agent on the other end that you had to deal with, and they may have taken your offer because they've known you, but you were honest enough with them and told them, hey, I'm trying to tell you as quick as I can. There's just too much to do here. And sometimes as realtors, you know, those are the hard choices. Those are the things that come up. Isn't that what we call the hard phone calls to make?
Those are the hard ones, yeah.
Yeah, but we have to do that. That's what sets us apart from mediocre agents. And that's what our clients, I believe, our clients deserve, is an above average agent, someone that's going to go to the mat, someone that'll say, you know what, if you don't want to buy this one, let's get out of this deal and find you what you want. Building those relationships, they're gold. They come back 100-fold. But you got to be willing to make that hard decision and tell them the truth.
Yeah. And then on that note, my brother, why don't you regale us with some of your parting wisdom, and then I will say something and we'll end the podcast, my brother.
Wow. Parting wisdom. I don't know what I could do with that one. All I could tell you is if you're newer, database, man. Database. And clients, past clients, friends, family, they are gold. You must treat them with respect and not lose them. You're not going to keep them all. It's just part of the business, but you just have to treat them like gold. When they call, you got to answer the phone. You have to be receptive. You have to be courteous. And you know, when it's time to be tough, you got to be tough too. This is a this is a great, great business. This is an industry that you can make money and I mean, what other industry? You're dealing with people and you're making their dreams come true. It's great.
Yep.
So you just got to keep doing it.
Yep.
And thanks for the opportunity. This was fun, boss.
You're welcome. All right. So thanks for tuning in to Master Agent Mindset. We're here to help. So if you want to be on the podcast, or if you have anything to regale our little enterprise here, please feel free to give me a call. Have a wonderful day. See you later.